Yeah, thank you, everybody. It's good to be here, and thank you for coming. Um, I want to talk about technology in the media industry tonight. It's something that I'm very passionate about. As you'll see, I've invested a lot of my life into this. So let me get into this. I'll give you an overview. Just some of the things that, as I go through the slide deck, I'll present on a variety of topics related to tech in the media. I'll give you an introduction to me and the topic. I'm Michael Saffell, Regional Director of Engineering at Hearst Television. I help manage half of the television stations, the 28 television stations for Hearst Television. I've got 15 of them. I'm based here in Manchester, New Hampshire. And I started off as a camera operator in a production facility. You'll see a little bit of that in here in a minute. But 43 years in broadcasting at this point. So it's something I've really enjoyed, and I'd like to share my experiences. Down in the bottom corner, you can see a map of the United States. All the little bright dots on it are places, locations where Hearst Television has stations. My furthest west one is in Omaha, so I don't go all the way into our Sacramento or Monterey or Albuquerque stations. Keeps me a little further to the east. I've got all the stations in the Northeast. We've got 4 of them up here in Burlington, Vermont, in Boston, Manchester with WMUR, our local station here, and then in Portland, Maine. And then to the south, there's 2 stations that we operate in Fort Myers, Florida. So they were 52 degrees today, and it was chilly for them. So a little different than the -10 that we started with here. So this is me. When I was much younger. When I got in the business, on the right, I was 15 years old. That's in a production facility at what was then a mega church in Northeast Ohio. It had seating for about 2,400 people. Now there's much bigger churches, that kind of thing. But back in the 70s, early 80s, that was quite a sizable operation. They had a nationally distributed television show. The show was distributed on tapes that were, on the reels, like right behind here. That was one of the 3 tape machines. Down here, there's 3 different camera control units for the big cameras that we used. On the left was a couple years later. I was working at the master control position in a local television station, and just got my start, sort of working through television. My father was the chief engineer at the church, at the production facility at the church there, and I could volunteer and get involved with things, and then I just kept getting involved until I started getting paid to do that when I was 13, and started, put the camera on my shoulder because I had a lot of energy and could carry a 20-pound camera around on my shoulder for hours at a time, which is not something I would want to do these days. So these days, speaking of that, fast forward a few years, this is me. I still work in television, of course, but I'm a lot less hands-on. On the right, I'm at our corporate headquarters in New York. We do a lot of planning meetings and budget meetings and sort of getting together with our key vendors and things like that down there. We're part of Hearst Television is part of Hearst Corporation, which is, Hearst Television, I think is 3,200 employees out of 20-some thousand, low 20,000s for Hearst Corporation overall. They have a wide range of magazines, newspapers, a lot of different media entities involved with that, and that was one of William Randolph Hearst's sort of distinguishing features of his newspaper business at the beginning. He got involved with radio, sort of crossed lines with sharing content between different forms of media, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. They've also diversified into all kinds of data financial data, reporting, and there's a company in Merrimack down the road here called Camp Systems, and they track and analyze and put together aircraft turbine engine reliability data and active sort of data in engines to look at, you know, when repairs need to happen and do tracking for maintenance and that kind of thing. So a lot of different businesses all the way around. It's mostly all involving data and that kind of thing at some point. So on the left, that's a control room at WMUR that I helped sort of design and build. Again, just sort of facilitating processes now at what I'm doing in the role I'm in now. So what is the media industry? You know, there's a dictionary definition of media where it's all the various forms of, you know, things that we think of as information sources. It's also, the word is also the plural of medium, which is, means a method or way of expressing something, or a conduit. And the media industry conveys information and entertainment through a variety of channels to consumers. And when I say, you know, that it's a conduit for conveying, expressing ideas, and it conveys information, it's along those kind of lines where it's a method to move information, again, data in its raw form. But the consumers, you know, aren't just, you know, consumers like you're going to the mall or something like that. It's that you're consuming the information, you're consuming the data, which is, you know, to hopefully it's useful information, news, valuable information about your local, you know, society and what's around you, and local politics, or maybe it's entertainment. But that's you know, when you use the media essentially and engage with that, then you become the consumer on that side of it. So media in our lives, a few different little, you know, sort of stock images here. You know, technology in media, you know, is not a new thing, right? It's the printing press was a technology that changed the world, you know, amazingly. And a lot of times, you know, we go all the way to like AI and things that we see are new and virtual things and all that, and we think, oh, this is all, and those are, you know, advances and big steps forward as we go forward. But it's also not something new on a certain level. That, you know, the amount that you know, AI is sort of an unknown as far as how it's going to change, you know, things as we move forward and shape the future. And it has the ability to, you know, really have an impact in a lot of ways. But again, you look at the printing press and how that changed humanity in being able to convey information in a rapid fashion and get that out. So, you know, in a sense, the shift that's happened more recently is sort of in those bullet points, right? Is the bottom bullet point, I'll start there. That, like I said, the technology, whether it's a wooden block printing press or that kind of thing, newspapers, TV, or digital media, AI, any of that, it's an enabler, right? It's been a great enabler. It brings people together. It creates interactive engagement in the world. In recent times, the middle bullet point, we've found a way to create technology that we interact with in a live and, you know, just very very connected kind of way, right? And it is about connectivity. Traditionally, you got media, you engaged with media to consume it, and you were just the consumer. Now you can consume, but you can also give feedback. You can direct, you can create a lot easier. And it's a sort of more of a two-way street, whether you realize it or not, with some of the, you know, digital metrics and things that get pulled through systems and devices and that kind of thing. But it's more of a two-way street, and you're interacting more than just consuming. So technology and the content creator. This is sort of the first sort of bullet point on the initial sort of page there. Again, technology is a tool. It's not going to create things, right? No matter, you know, how much something looks like it's automated, how many gears are spinning inside it and all that, and what beautiful images or various things that come out of it, it all needs to be prompted to do that in the first place. You know, it's like a pile of salt or a solution of salt, and you have to have to get a crystal to grow, there has to be a seed there, and then that informs the structure of the crystal as it grows from there, and it just builds upon it, one another. It's sort of like that. You know, generative AI, as I said, is something that is the exciting new technology. We don't know where that's going to lead, but it has to be prompted. It has to be prompted correctly. It has to be used correctly, directed correctly. It has to be built in a useful way. And that technology is changing so quickly. You know, some of the Consumer Electronics Show just happened a couple weeks ago, and NVIDIA, who creates basically the silicon processing chips for running all the large language models with the traditional, last couple years sort of AI kind of stuff. They've shifted gears and they've moved beyond the LLMs and are moving on to other things, and because they recognize that there's limitations there. You know, these things hallucinate. They decide to tell you something and you say, why did you say that? And you say, oh yeah, I was wrong. I've had that happen using them. Here, let me tell you what it really is. And you go, okay, well, is this one really right now? And, generative AI is one thing, but again, it takes a seed, right? It takes, a creative start to it. And then some of these tools, we just have a hard time comprehending the speed at which they can work. And it looks like it's, something that has agency and can really create. But, acquiring, creating, and curating content is still the primary work of people that work in media, right? Going out, getting the content, capturing it like we do with cameras, massaging it, working with it, curating it, and then distributing it. That's sort of what people in the media industry do. And they use a lot of technology to do that these days. So content acquisitions. Some of the methods are using cameras and microphones to capture pictures and sound. Also connecting with other partners who've already created content or curating or archiving content. And you can connect with them and pull that in and use that. Also, content can be generated from, again, data. It's all information, but as we think about it, sort of more numbers-based or metrics-based or trends-based or something like that, instead of visual or auditory information. It can be, weather data or various things. So, but those are the ones I focused on, three sort of, methods of acquiring content. So the first one, pictures and sound, right? Capturing pictures and sound. In the upper left, Jack Blue, one of the guys I used to go to school with and work in the television industry with. That's the cameras we started on, and he's running that. The camera in the bottom left is very similar to the camera over here that I brought. Is just sort of a show and tell kind of piece. In the middle, Emma is running a more modern Ronin 4D. The body of the camera holds most of the electronics and things, but the lens and the sensor are here, and it's a 4-axis stabilized thing, so it will float along as she moves and keep the picture stabilized. And then, of course, we've got an iPhone, and iPhone is the current sort of default, ubiquitous kind of, this is how you can capture content, So Ryan and Lucas, my sons, let me borrow some of their gear today to show, but a rig that you can put an iPhone in and connect up microphones, lights, and that kind of thing on, can be just a an absolute amazing content creation device. You can capture 4K video at high definition or high dynamic range and wide color gamut. Just beautiful looking stuff with a phone, and maybe not have the lens throw like you do with one of the professional cameras here, with a bigger piece of glass and lens on it. But this camera can't do the pictures that the iPhone does, right? It does a 1080i, a sort of an HD interlaced older standard, that kind of thing. You know, there's trade-offs in that kind of thing. You get a lot of control and a lot of, you know, ability to have a consistent experience with that kind of camera. You said, Ryan, let me borrow his stabilizer. This is what you basically see, a different version, or sometimes it's this version. People in the football games now, NFL games, college football games, in the end zone cameras. So a lot of times it's a DSLR camera mounted on this and wireless going back to the control room, and they put that right into the mix. Now, part of, you know, some of this is the advance of technology, right? The image sensor on this this iPhone, there's a tiny little lens, right? And in there's a sensor that has a red, green, and blue little pixel sensors, and they each have a little color filter in front of them. In this camera, there's the reason it's sort of shaped, you know, with this triangular kind of thing here. There's a green, a red, and a blue in here, but they're chips, little electronic chips. So it's a much more compact kind of thing. There's a color splitter that's right behind the lens here that splits the colors into the three different chips. With the camera that Jack's running there, this is what was in that. There were 3 of these, which are lead oxide faced camera tubes. So the light from the lens, which was a much bigger lens, would get split into the 3 different colors, and there'd be a green and a red and a blue, and the light would come in and strike the face of the tube, and there's an electron beam to go up and scan, and on the ring, the metal ring here, there would be an output signal, and you'd amplify that, and you get one color of a picture. And then you have to put them all together, and there's a lot of physical, you know, this tube's here, and you have to electronically align them, physically align them, all those kind of things. Even to the point of they're very delicate too, and when they ship them, they put them in like a gimbal kind of box so that they would stay upright, because during the manufacturing process, if you turned it upside down, there might be little tiny pieces of metal and things that would land on the back of the target area on the tube, and then it would create a blemish on it, and you get a spot in your picture. So lot of difference, you know, just in the you think about the size of the tube, and you know, you look at what the size of the sensor there, or even this kind of thing, you know, the size of it, the advance through time of the technology has really enabled a lot of things, including imaging technology. So that's one way to, you know, acquire content, is through just getting pictures and sound with cameras, microphones, that kind of thing. There's other things too. The helicopter here at the station I work with in Louisville, Kentucky, it's got a stabilized camera up on the front, underneath the nose of the helicopter. That's right out in front of the station, and right across the driveway there. On the left, these are big 122 times magnification lenses. Those are on the truck that just did the college football, the control room truck that just did the college football championship game on Monday night. So they use those lenses with a few other ones. I'll get to that. The other method of, again, acquiring content is with partners. So other media companies, there's agreements about, you know, who gets to use what content. our station in Fort Myers, there's both an ABC and an NBC there, and they have a common newsroom because it makes sense to just deal with all the news together, but they have to be very deliberate. If they get a national news story from NBC, it can't make it with that NBC reporter talking in the microphone, can't make it on the ABC on the air there. So there's a lot of agreements and things that, and it costs a lot of money to say, hey, CNN, we want to be able to use your content in our newscasts because you're a worldwide presence and that brings a value to us. And then the local partners also contribute back into that. So you have, local news and CNN says, hey, we want you to put that on the connection to us, can you do that? And they, they take it and they give credit to the local station, just like the local station would give credit to CNN. So, and then some of the data sources, right? So the lower left is a radar, a little promotional kind of thing for our station in Omaha with their Doppler radar installation there. In the Midwest, we have a lot of radars because of the weather and being the first to understand what happens, with developing weather is a competitive advantage. So, we talk about numbers and things coming back, radar data, that kind of thing raw data gets processed and can become a very important asset for telling a story and explaining what's going on. The Associated Press also provides a lot of data through their news gathering, and especially with elections and that kind of thing, they send a lot of data through for local, national elections, that kind of thing that gets processed and created and put into our content. The Storm Tracker truck here for the station in Cincinnati, they've got a weather station on top there that has an anemometer. It does all the things you think about, humidity, temperature, obviously wind speed with an anemometer, all those kind of things. Insulation, I think, as far as, how much sun is there, those kind of things. All that data, can be transported back, integrated as part of the content that we're interested in creating as an extra little thing. So that Paul is at our station in Fort Myers inside the radar dome working on the servo system that moves the dish. So that's what it looks like inside there. The ball on the right is the one in Des Moines, our station in Des Moines. It has a fairly small tower, 150-foot one to put that on, so it's easy to take a picture. So this will work here. So next, I want to talk about a little bit more of the virtual environments, right? So I mentioned earlier some of the virtual things. We all see it. You can, do Pokemon Go and that kind of thing with your phone, and you got augmented reality, right? Again, right in your phone. But in the broadcast environment, there's a few things that are, really important to us. The reason we have cameras that look like that and have the functionality they do, it's the same thing with the virtual environment. So there's a lot of investment, a bit of a heavy lift to put a really good, solid system in place for, should I wave or does it come back? It's fine. For doing nightly broadcasts with a virtual environment. So this green screen, and then what you'll see here in a minute, takes the place of somebody coming in and building a set that may cost $500,000 of plywood and laminate and plastic and various things to put together, to design and put together. It still costs something to design a virtual set, but you have the ability to then modify it or put something else, another virtual environment in there and run it. So I'll let this run here and show you. Should pop up. Oh, and it's dropped my Bluetooth connection, I think. Or I think it went to sleep. Or did I? No, that's mine. That's my fault.
Oh, you may have noticed something a little bit, or a lot, different about our Chronicle set recently.
Well, Chronicle is stepping into the future.
After years of planning, months of design, and plenty of trial and error,
these were testing and shot.
It's not as distracting as I thought it would be.
we've converted this studio, more than 2,000 square feet, into our new home base, from which we'll continue to bring you the stories of New England each night.
My first impression was wow. It is big, it's exciting, but it's still totally in line with our brand and with Chronicle.
To appreciate fully just how far we've come, let's take a look back at our humble beginnings. This was the Chronicle set for a long time. Didn't have our own set. We went to the new set, and we just laid this thing out like that, and voila, it was the Chronicle set. Chronicle's first dedicated set came in 2006, at a time the country was moving from the old standard definition TV squares of 4x3 to the high definition world of 16x9. And of course, we chronicled that transition.
For Chronicle, there's a brand new look with the feel of an urban loft or a ski house.
That was then, and this is now. There were a couple things that were really important to us. One was to keep the feel and look of Chronicle. It's sort of natural wood colors and reds and warm, but what's cutting edge about it is everything is virtual, except for the actual desk. New cameras, new software and graphics, sophisticated rendering engines that create a complex 3D environment in real time.
You can do things with a virtual set that you can't do with a physical set. We want to move lighting positions around. You're not getting out a ladder or a lift.
WCDB Director of Engineering, Kevin Collier.
The typical weather presentation, when you're watching a meteorologist talk about the weather, they're standing in front of a flat wall, nothing's moving. This is completely different in that you can move the camera anywhere you want, you can zoom it in and out, and it will be just like if the room were real. There are not a lot of local call letter television stations doing what we're doing.
We were one of the very first television programs in the country to be all high definition, not just high definition in the studio, but high definition in the field. We do a lot more shooting with drones now, and that gives you sort of a big cinematic look to a lot of our shows. So we had this tradition and history of cutting edge technology. So the new set is really an extension of that.
What I love about the new set is that we can literally take our viewers anywhere. If we're in Vermont, then you're going to see some cows behind us. If we're in the Caribbean, you're going to see a beautiful beach. So we're able to now really, truly have that Chronicle experience from the start of the show to the end of the show. And if you're wondering whether we can wear green on the set, well, the answer is a big old yes. The new system supports most shades of green. A big, big, big shout out to our engineering and directing crews for their hard work on this exciting new project. That is Chronicle for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Shayna Seymour. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. Good night.
So there you go. Let's see. Okay. So that's a little bit of a, promotional kind of thing, but a demonstration of the, a virtual set. Now, what it takes to do some of that is, I'll show you on the next slide here. So this is an example of a television studio on the right. All the studio lights are turned off. It's easier to see what's up above, right? Is all the lighting and flags and grid, lighting grid, all those various pieces of things. But if you stand underneath in this studio and you look up and you shine a light up, that's retroreflective material like you see on the back of a truck or something, the red and white stripes, or on a highway sign. When you shine a light directly at it, it bounces right back to you. So what this system is they create a constellation of these dots, just random, and there's a camera on top of the pan and tilt head for each of these camera assemblies that looks up and sees those dots and can tell in the studio where they are. And so that lets the cameras move around in a controlled way. and precisely go back to within a millimeter of where they're supposed to be. It also feeds data to the virtual set system. As was mentioned there, you're constantly sort of rendering the background that's behind the person in that virtual realm, and the system that does that needs to know where in space that those cameras are and all that kind of stuff. So this is just a little example of some of the systems used in that. This is another example of a virtual environment. This place is actually in Derry, New Hampshire, just down the road, and they have an LED wall, and like if you've seen any of the Mandalorian kind of shows and seen any of the tech behind that, they call it the volume. But it's a complete LED wall that can be a scenic kind of thing. You don't have to render with, you don't have to insert the video with a green screen, right? Somebody can be in the space here and be immersed in the space, and even to the point of the panel that's up above, that can provide cloud lighting, sun lighting, that kind of thing. You can do those kind of things and still have the light bouncing off of a talent here, and it looks more realistic. This is that same room with practical sort of dirt and plants in the foreground, but then it seamlessly meshes into the LED wall in the back. So that they still use a lot of times the virtual render machines, that kind of thing, because as the cameras move and people move, the perspective and the parallax all sort of tracks and works together. So that's a place, it's unique. Here in Derry, New Hampshire, it used to be a television station, and they had the studio space, and a company came in, an events company came in and turned it into an environment where they do some really neat stuff. This one is, again, a little video presentation. I'd like to show you. This is some people that work inside Hearst Television and that have come into working in television recently, and I thought it'd be something you might want to see.
Able to say, I work for a TV station? That's really awesome.
Oh my god, I work for a TV station. Like, this is so cool.
Couldn't probably one of the funnest jobs I think I've ever had.
They even let me go up in a helicopter for one of my shifts. That was the coolest thing. Hey, I'm Aiden, and I'm the operations engineer here at WCB Channel 5. Currently, I'm a college student at Emerson College here in Boston. It's usually an issue when I'm on camera. I mean, something went wrong, usually.
I'm a part-time maintenance technician. I work in the maintenance shop with all the engineers. I'm basically an engineer in training.
My name is Jalil Franks. My title is broadcast engineer and master control operator.
I am a current senior at Elizabethtown College studying electrical engineering. I would love to work in some sort of engineering where I don't have to sit at a desk, and obviously working at a TV station, you're never sitting at your desk. Probably the coolest thing that I'll ever do in my life. I was able to climb to the top of the tallest building in Harrisburg to fix a sky cam that went down. Just that of like, oh my god, like you would never imagine that you'd be able to do that kind of thing at a TV station.
If you can't see it, to clear the texture will probably be up here. When I was a kid, I would take everything apart. You would typically see me tinker and fix things on a regular basis around the house. I was doing my fellowship with the Marty Fallbell Fellowship here in Hearst, and that's kind of how I got my stuff here. You also see here, we also have our admin log here. I get to more or less interact with everybody inside of our building. I really love to kind of get my hands and my feet dirty when I do my work a little bit. And every day's different, but it's always fun.
I want to be part of something greater, something bigger. I was in the military for like 9 years active duty. My job was interior communications electrician. So I worked on like the phones, TV, low voltage electrical equipment, electronics, sensors, alarms, everything from like the bottom of the ship to the top of the ship. And then I went to the reserves, and now I'm going to college for electrical engineering. One day I want to be an engineer.
I used to just play with the radio when I was like a little kid, and then my dad was like, breaking the speakers, and like I would just mess around with stuff. I ended up touring a local station here as well, and I went home and like recreated the set with my cousin, and like she would like anchor the weather and stuff. So this is the studio. You get to actually like come in here and work real shifts with real people. But yeah, I always kind of had my eye on technical directing, at least in the past about 2 or 3 years. So to come here and kind of try out all the roles, but still find that I really came back to and directing, was really a good experience for me to know that, yes, that is probably really what I want to go into.
Every single day was different. I was doing something new every single day. Going into my second internship allowed me to know, okay, this is what I want to do. Yeah, maybe I'm not building bridges and I'm not making these massive structures and I'm not directly saving turtles or whatever, but I'm being someone who is helping the local community, and I think that was a draw for me.
I would love to see just how far technology can take me. Matter of fact, in all honesty, I would love to see how far I can take technology with this job. I want to be able to help push broadcast television to the next level. It's meant a lot to me, honestly. It's honestly kind of changed my life. Just knowing that I have my entire family and friends and community supporting me through this whole process has made it 10 times more enjoyable, and honestly has made this a lifelong career that I'll definitely be taking with me for as long as I possibly can.
I'm very lucky that I work here with these very smart engineers and they're teaching me. And it feels good to be a female representative in the engineering field. I feel like I can see myself being here in the long haul. And I still feel like I have so much left to achieve. We're just getting started.
So yeah. Oh, now I've done it. From current slide, let's see. Well, go back through a few of those, review those quickly. Okay, so getting the message across, right? Transmission technology is another part of technology in the media. Part of it is bringing content in, transmitting the information from the source into where you're going to manipulate it, and then manipulating it, and then transmitting it out to the consumers. So some of the technology we use for that is a satellite truck on the left. The dish that's up pointed at the sky is basically shooting a beam of a signal up 24,000 miles up in the sky. The satellite receives it, does a little bit with it, sends it back down another 24,000 miles, and can be received on any sort of satellite dishes that are sort of within the scope of where that antenna on the satellite is pointing. We use that for in the industry for news gathering and transmission from places where there's no cell phone coverage or there's terrain issues. The other thing this truck has on it is a microwave transmission dish, and that's on a 47-foot mast. Compressed air will push that up. You can steer it, point it around, and basically you'd aim it at a little receive antenna like this that itself can point on that end, so they both can meet and align and basically get the signal across. And bring the content back. Another way that I was fortunate to be a part of in 2007, I think on one of the slides I sort of glossed over it a little bit, but I did 15 years of, out of the time I've been in television, mobile television, so the mobile control room trucks, like the ones that go at the Red Sox games or down to the Bruins games, that kind of thing. So it's a big tractor trailer, has space inside for control room and equipment and people to do the productions. This particular year in 2007, I was working a red carpet show for the E! Networks for the Oscars. And so this was where our set was. They were off to the side and I was just taking a picture behind them, but they had a desk to stand at, and then there were two big broadcast cameras there to shoot them. The city wouldn't let us fly the camera cables, even though we were 4 or 5. This was on the roof of the Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. And they wouldn't let us shoot or run the camera cables, fly them from one side of the street to the other, even though we're 4 or 6 stories in the air. So what we used was Canon Optical, the company that makes lenses for all these cameras and things. They had a product that's called a Cano Beam, and it shoots through free space, basically a computer Ethernet connection, you could say. It's about twice the speed of the typical ones you plug in on your laptop and that kind of thing. But it was about an eighth to a quarter of a mile from the position here, and then I've got highlighted in yellow there on top of that parking deck. There was another 2 of these units, 2 on this end, 2 on that end, and that sent basically the camera signal in high definition and broadcast with all the controls and all that stuff across free space. So it was really a neat sort of way to do that and overcome that challenge. But it's an example of some of the neat technology that comes into play sometimes. In the switching and modifying, I didn't quite know what to call it in a sense, but when I talked about modifying content and changing it, that could be as simple as you're selecting when you want to see a particular source of content. And that's what these systems do in this control room. This is the wider view, of course. You've got producers and executives back here, the line producer running the show here. She's got a script in front of her that she's written the show, and they'll go down through in a sequence. The director here is going to execute what the producer's vision is to put on the air. You're going to execute that. Here's a close-up of that sort of pod where they're in. There's a lot of controls, a lot of things to look at, and but that the director has gone through and scripted, done some of the work ahead of time by scripting some of the automation. So it's an automated sort of system where there's very little. You don't have the huge soundboards anymore. You don't have the big, huge switchers. The old switcher is actually still down there in this automated system that runs sort of the scripts and macros. Just sort of punches the buttons on that now. So it's a little bit of the live production kind of stuff that goes on. This is another view of live production. I think, as I mentioned before, some of those big lenses were in use. This was the view inside the truck on Monday night at the college football championship game. I think they had just finished up and were wrapping up coverage and things. But that's what it looks like inside of sort of one of these trailers, these big 53-foot expanding out the side kind of trailers. The view up here is inside a smaller truck. It's more like a delivery van kind of thing, but that's the Holiday Lights presentation that WCVB produced before Christmas, a couple weeks before Christmas. They did the Holiday Lights, tree lighting, that kind of thing. They got a new production truck this year and put that into good use. Another sort of thing on, technology and that kind of thing. This is an interesting one that caught my eye, and I had it in mind since I saw it. The creative services director who does all the promotional stuff at our station in Birmingham, he put together this piece for the Olympics. They're an NBC station, and so they were promoting the Olympics. And what he said he did like some 3D effects and things, and I thought, oh, okay. That sounds neat. Show it to me, kind of thing. I was down there visiting the station, so I'll show you what.
Silver medalist. How about this kid? Just like everything else she's done in Athens.
And you'll see some of the graphics. It's layered 3D kind of thing, a little bit of. But the thing that really caught my eye is coming up here, where they did that, where it comes out of the, so.
I always say, how can I help the next generation? Been there, stuck that. Tonight at 10.
There's some neat stuff there too, right? And I've done it again somehow there. I'm just going to slide. There we go. At least we didn't go back. But yeah, there's some neat stuff just on the tech of what we use. A lot of those tools and that kind of thing are available to use on a laptop, at home, or even some of them on an iPhone, that kind of thing. It's just sort of the intentional and controlled environment that we use them in the broadcast industry that sort of lends to some of the presentations like this. But there's a lot of ways to use these tools in the media industry. Then you've got sort of the back end, the server rooms and things like that. I've been successful in moving through the broadcast technology over time and making a transition to understanding computerized systems and being able to keep up to date on those kind of things, in addition to having the experience of the older equipment and that kind of thing. But I've been successful in helping people that I work with to start referring to our television stations, these parts of them, as the broadcast data center, because that's really what it is. We've got small virtual environments and lots of servers that process video, do Ethernet switching at high rates, move video around on IP and Ethernet, and then racks of lots of specialized equipment. The SyncBack server is a CBS server that connects the station into the CBS environment in a sort of global way, so they can share content and things like that. But it's just a lot of specialized equipment, but then we're moving to a lot more off-the-shelf kind of stuff, regular servers that can be built up and used in a more traditional way. Or used for the specialized way we need to use them, but it's more traditional or common hardware. This one I just labeled Final Control. It's sort of a master control thing. Master control in television and broadcast is the position that switches the signal that goes out that you see at home, whether it's on an app, on the web, digital stream, that kind of thing, or through a transmitter antenna. These are two examples of two different ends of the spectrum here. You saw Jaleel in the video before. He's down at our station in North Carolina. He's in charge at this point of 8 different stations that are on the air. And so overnight, between midnight and 4 a.m., when there's not a lot of things going on in a station, these 8 stations, including 2 that are there in the building where he is, all come together and one person can operate them. So all these different colored lists essentially are the commercials and the networks and things like that. This is all the sources and content that will play out over all those different stations that are displayed up there. You can take all that during COVID, when the COVID-19 situation happened, and companies and organizations like television stations that are 24/7, 365, you never have downtime, have to be on the air, have to have people engaged all the time. Well, how do you do that in some ways? So what we did is we created ways to take an individual station, a couple of, 2 of them actually in this case, and make it accessible remotely with the monitoring that's needed. What you don't see is the application that's running that runs the intercom communications for sound, but some there and do the job of just a couple of those stations from their home looking out the patio door, right? So again, technology enabling, as we go through time, enabling more and more, and the challenge of the COVID-19 situation really brought a lot to the forefront as far as what was important, in media. Well, what's important is the content, right? And not how we get it, not how pretty the picture looks all the time necessarily, but that somebody's there and is capturing that content and can get it and where it can be distributed. So the cell phones and things like that came into more use. We found novel ways to connect and bring content back, and have it be a part of informing people as they went through there. Another version of the transmission technology is getting it out, right? Transmitting it. It's a little bit of a thin thing, but 2,000-foot tower over here in Des Moines, Iowa. That's a radar ball that you saw in the other picture. It's like 125, 150-foot tower. But yeah, 2,000-foot tower. You can climb it. There's a ladder in there, but this red little box here is the elevator, right? Goes all the way to the top. You put 2 people in there, and you're just sort of in there, and takes a while to get up there, but at least you're not climbing it, right? So, but that's another aspect of, there's a fairly big building down here that holds transmitters and stuff like that too. So this is inside the transmitter building in Fort Myers, Florida, at our station there. I had said there's ABC and an NBC in the same sort of operation, and that's what that looks like. The transmitters themselves are here on each side. There's some water pumps and things like that. They pump water actively through the modules that create the signals to keep them cool. This was an antenna switch out in Boston. 1,400-foot tower there on the right. That time, they had a sky crane come in and lift and put the antenna on. And then the people working to bolt everything down and make the connections. It's more of a rigging kind of thing on a certain level, but it is, shows some of the challenges, shows some of the things that need to happen with the transmission technology. The fine sort of hookup of the big connections on the bottom of the antenna that carry over a million watts of power, because there's 6 stations that go through the one connection, is definitely a technology kind of thing there itself. Again, Jaleel, he was one of the first Marty Faubo Fellows that he mentioned. So Hearst Television has a fellowship program where it's 10 weeks paid, with us, and you commit to us for 10 weeks, and we commit that we'll pay you and then place you in a job somewhere in our network of stations after that 10 weeks. So, we complete all that successfully. We have a really good syllabus where we take people through and get them immersed in not just a particular job that they're going to be doing at the end of the day, but we have them go in and sit with the content creators. We have them sit with the people operating the equipment to put the content on the air. We have them connect with sales and just all the different aspects of the operation to really get a rounded view on sort of what they're getting into. So that's for recent college graduates, and we're always looking to connect with people. There's a little flyer. If you're interested, you can take one of those paper flyers there with the same thing on there. But yeah, we're always looking for the right people. Another local opportunity that came up, just got an email from it the other day, was an internship at the Studio Lab facility that I mentioned, showed that volume kind of LED wall. So there's a lot more in, technology in the media, a lot of different things to cover in a sense, but I wanted to focus there and just give you a view on that. So thank you, and questions?